We are here for goodness sake. Hello family, this is Carol Worth with Paul LLC. Welcome to the Goodness Forum, where goodness and positivity is openly discussed and amplified. This is our second season. Today's topic is Love is a Verb, and our guest today is Emily Marsura. I said it right this time. Woohoo!
Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome. So Emily's going to tell us a little bit about yourself. Let the audience know where you live, where you come from, what you're up to.
All right. Well, I'm 24, about to turn 25. Just about done with school over at Eastern Washington University. Go Eagles. I'll be getting my bachelor's in environmental science and biology, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a long time coming. Been in college for too many years now. About 6 probably.
That's totally great, right?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Get 2 degrees, I'm happy. Worked at Starbucks for 6 years. Worked with you for a year and a half?
Yeah,
year and a half. Congratulations. You're almost at your 2 years.
Woohoo!
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's about it for me. Honestly, I do a lot of hiking. I paint, color when I can. I'm about to move into a new apartment, which that's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
But that's about it for me.
And we're in Spokane, Washington.
Yep, Spokane, Washington, born and raised. Hopefully I'll get out eventually, but as of right now I'll probably be here for the next year.
Yeah.
We'll look for a job outside.
Fantastic.
But,
so our topic, love is a verb, and here's the quote: "He that plants trees loves others besides himself." Because what you didn't talk about, and which I want you to talk about, is number one, just the loving person that you are. I mean, you already
sweet.
get that, right? Just so good with people, and so much of a loving person out there with whatever's going on with the person. Like, you just are there with people. And then the other part that I really want you to talk about is that you not only are just loving individually with people, but you're really a stand for the planet.
Yeah.
Because you're an activist. And I'm going to point out this wonderful shirt she has on, and we do this as a podcast as well. So I'm going to ask you to describe your shirt to the audience and tell them about it and why you're wearing it.
It's a fist. Almost looks like a Black Power fist from, or like
the 60s.
Yeah, something like that. But it has a bunch of different words on it, scientific phrases, logic, reason, climate change, gravity, space. I'm having to look down at it. I haven't read it a ton. Reason, discovery, data. I love it. It's one of my favorite shirts. I got it for the Science March that we had in Spokane on Earth Day. I believe it was Earth Day.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I could only go to half of it because I ended up getting called into work.
Got it.
Craziness happened that day, as I recall. But it was still fun. I got to go for a little bit. Didn't get to stay for too long. But yeah, the shirt means a lot to me. Like, growing up, I did a lot of hiking and camping. Really have been passionate about the outdoors since I was just a kid. Still go fishing with my dad, do all that business. Yeah, like, it's hard to kind of live in the society that we live in today, being an environmental scientist, because it's kind of, I don't know how to put this, with our new president that we have, it's a little bit more difficult to get where we need to be in society currently, so we're just I'm kind of waiting for the next 4 years to kind of, pass on by. So it's a little bit easier on everybody to pick up where we left off
and yet,
when he started.
I'm going to say that, but you say that, and yet what you're doing, you just described. You went to the Science March, and so that was on Earth Day.
Yep.
Right? And so what was the purpose of the march? And because you're very politically active, and so that's not just waiting on the sidelines.
No.
It's actually getting in the middle of trying to make a difference.
Oh yeah,
and love in action, right? Planting trees, loving others beside yourself, right?
Right, exactly. And the Science March was all about bringing people together and understanding that science is important. It brings facts to the table. It's something that we need in society today, and with what's going on in the government, that's kind of getting pushed to the sideline.
So in terms of the environment and you're a big advocate for the environment.
Yeah.
You're an environmental scientist, for goodness sake. What are the areas that you are most passionate about?
Keeping our water clean, I think, is one of my more passionate interests in science and environmental science specifically. That's kind of where everything starts. If you don't have clean water, how are you going to sustain life on the planet? Like, in general, it doesn't matter if you're a plant, an insect, a human, a lion. It doesn't matter. Like, you need water. So that's something that's really important, and I think everybody needs to realize that keeping water clean and having programs like the EPA alive are so important to the well-being of our planet currently that we really have to take a step back and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And kind of realize that we need to love Mother Earth as well. That makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. So talk a little bit about what you're studying now. Your degree is in environmental science, and so what is your area of interest? How did you end up getting into being an environmental scientist? Because when you look at somebody, you don't necessarily think, oh, hey, that person's probably an environmental scientist, right? I mean, it's not even something that's on most people's radar as a thing to become.
Right. I think for me specifically, what made me choose this path over something else, like, was when I was growing up, I really wanted to be an art teacher for the longest time because I love art and enjoy painting. It's always brought me like relaxation and whatnot. But science just like holds a piece of my heart personally, and I'm sure you know this too because you taught chemistry for 10 plus years, so you know exactly what I mean when I say like having that form of logic and reason have a little part of your heart feels kind of good. I'm not even pointing to the right part of my heart, pointing to like my shoulder.
And most people would not know that, but just the same, But thank you for telling the podcast people she's pointing to her shoulder.
Not the heart. I was on the opposite side of my body. But it's just been, I don't know. I've been so passionate about it for so long. Like, love being able to go outside and camp and enjoy the trees and like just basic things that you would never really appreciate, I guess. Like, I feel like a lot of people take stuff like that for granted, especially depending on where they live. Luckily, in the Pacific Northwest, we have some of like the most beautiful climate and weather and all of it.
Yeah, we don't have to deal with a lot of
land.
things.
Oh gosh, it's beautiful. Yeah, we're lucky. We're not in California where water's so scarce that they have to ship it all across the country, or we don't live in the South where they have to like chlorinate their water, which is very unfortunate. But we are also blessed, #blessed, with the Spokane Valley Raft and Prairie Aquifer, so we're pretty lucky.
So there may be people who really don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
So could you talk to them about what's an aquifer and what do you mean by blessed by this aquifer? Because I totally get that.
Yeah.
And yet there will be people out there who are like, I don't know what she's talking about. Well, okay, so tell them about it.
An aquifer is basically a source of clean water for an individual area. It's underground, typically natural. For us, it was made by the Missoula Lake flooding during the Ice Age. I think it was the Ice Age or right after the Ice Age. So for us, we have a really nice unconfined aquifer, so there's no confining layers beneath or above it.
And what does that mean?
Confining, or the difference is just like they're called aquatards. They're just layers that keep the water almost cleaner. Kind of just like traps it more.
Got it.
We have an unconfined aquifer, so for us we have problems with like the Spokane River getting contaminated and that possibly leaching into our aquifer.
Oh, okay.
Stuff like that. Like Kaiser aluminum. Stuff seeping into the ground.
So can aluminum and other
heavy metals, especially like lead and arsenic, can really get in there, which is not good.
Got it.
But it's luckily for us, our aquifer is really deep, so it's not normally a problem.
And an aquifer, by its nature, is sort of self-cleaning, is it not? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, kind of. So it just depends on how big the aquifer is. It's basically kind of like dilution. It's kind of a lame way to put it because, the answer to pollution is dilution is not something.
No, we don't want.
Not something very correct. Like,
Yeah.
that's not a great way to put it. But in this case, it is kind of a more appropriate term to coin, phrase to coin, I guess, because the aquifer is so big that even if something smaller, like even if they're heavy metals, gets in, it's not as bad because it's diluted pretty quickly within the system.
So we, because we live where we live, have access to basically clean water fairly easily.
Yeah, so we have some of the nicest water in the country, easily. There's a very large aquifer in the Midwest. I have such a hard time pronouncing it. The Ugalala aquifer. A lot of that is fed through the Midwest in Colorado and other states, and a lot of it gets brought back into rivers, like the Colorado River, where water's taken for places like California and other places that are in drought. So we're pretty lucky. We don't have to deal with a lot of that red tape, I guess.
Yeah. So the people. So essentially, what happens if there's too much of it drained off, then it doesn't have time to renew.
Yeah, it doesn't have enough time to recharge the system, and so it's basically water wars can happen, and can get pretty serious. And considering how much drought a lot of the planet, especially like in our neck of the woods, like California, in the past like 5 years,
Right.
it's probably just gonna get worse, unfortunately.
So would you say that was part of your motivation in becoming an environmental biologist?
100%. Like, you see places like California where they are so populated, they hold such a huge portion of our population, that when you have such large droughts like that, it's kind of upsetting, and it's kind of hard to watch because it's